it's Antia Boyd.
And Boyd.
And we're the creators of the Magnetize The Man Summit. So really excited for you to jump right into the next interview because we have created this for you to stop attracting emotionally unavailable men, overcome your trust issue, and so much more. So you attract that right man for you that makes you feel seen, cherished, and supported.
Can't wait to see you inside the interview and get you on the path to magnetizing your man once and for all. See you there. Look forward to it.
Mwah! Hello, everyone. This is Antia Boyd with the Magnetize The Man Summit, where single successful women crack the attraction code and live the happily ever after. And now look, sometimes the happily ever after happens during texting or knowing what to do when he doesn't text back. So that's why I invited the marvelous Rachel Russo here with me today. Hi, Rachel.
Hi, how are you?
So good to have you here. I'm really excited for your content.
Me too. It's such a fun topic and I'm happy to contribute for the women listening.
And ladies, it's really fun to listen to Rachel because she is an MFTMS matchmaker, dating and relationship coach, author, and speaker. She has a master's degree in marriage and family therapy from Iona College, a BA in psychology, which always helps, from Rutgers University, and is the founder of Rachel Russo Relationships, a New York City-based dating and relationship consultancy. She has spent the last 13 years working in the New York City matchmaking and dating industry and has even created and taught courses on matchmaking to aspiring matchmakers through Matchmaking Institute. Rachel is the author of 2 books, including How to Get Over Your Ex, a step-by-step guide to mend a broken heart, Italian-American style, and a fabulous job guide to become a matchmaker. That sounds really fun. She once went on 92 dates in 1 year. Oh my gosh, holy moly. And blogged about them. Thankfully, she's now in the midst of her own happily ever after, which is so perfect. Because that's what we're all looking for here. So welcome, Rachel.
Thank you. That is such a nice introduction. And I have a lot to say. This has been my whole career, really, full time for the last 13 years, helping women find and keep love.
Yeah. And I certainly know how that feels when you're really passionate about something. So tell us more why you're so passionate about this. What put that flame into your heart, your own journey to get where you are?
Well, I really just fell into the industry, to be honest. It wasn't like when I said, oh, when I grow up, I want to be a matchmaker and a dating coach. But I was always really excited about relationships, like listening to my friends talk about them, reading self-help books about dating. So I kind of started that at a young age. And I realized through my own challenges as a single woman and then working with clients when I did start the career, that relationships are the most challenging, complex things for certain people to deal with. And they can be the most successful professional women, yet they don't have it right in their love lives. And I find that despite all of the material success and living a great lifestyle, if women don't have the love that they're longing for, they're really not happy. So to me, relationships are the one area that can make us happier or more miserable, frankly, than anything else, right? Because they're the issues that keep us up at night, upset and losing sleep. And I just think we need to learn how to create the relationship that we dream of.
Yeah, absolutely. You're so right about that. And to take really ownership and stewardship over them versus hoping something just magically falls out of the sky. That's such a good distinction, Rachel. So today we're talking a little bit about, how to text or what to text back. Now, I'm personally not such a texting fan, hence I'm not a texting expert. So that's why I brought you in. So you can actually tell the listener more about, there's like this kind of type who just likes to text, just they're busy, it's faster, it's more efficient, whatever. So let's go a little bit into that. First of all, what to do when he doesn't text back.
And that is the question, what to do when he doesn't text. This is one of the biggest concerns that I see of women, actually, of all ages, when they're newly dating someone.
Yes.
It's a challenge, right? Because they're interested in a guy, but they don't want to look overeager. They don't want to be texting him and not getting a response.
Right.
And now we kind of have this whole phenomenon of ghosting that women know about. And it's really painful and feels like a huge rejection if you've been out with someone who you liked and then you just never hear from the guy again.
Right.
So, what is a woman to do in those situations? That's the question that I get a lot. And I think it's sort of case by case. But I think one thing is to keep in mind, so important. Men like to text sometimes nowadays more than even talking on the phone. I hear from a lot of women that say men don't want to talk on the phone. They want to just text and plan the date, and they want to talk. They want to keep in touch via text, but they don't want to have big emotional discussions about the relationship via text. And that's where a lot of women go wrong. So when the man isn't texting back, what they do is send a huge paragraph to the poor guy who's going to be like just blown away by it, and not in a good way. He's going to maybe shut down or read it and ignore it. And, that's the thing. Like, I don't think women should confront a man via text about the dynamic of the relationship. So that's one thing not to do. If she wants to follow up with him, she could, but she has to keep it a little more lighthearted, because important relationship discussions should not happen via text.
Yeah. Oh, I so agree with that. I always tell my clients, don't write novels. I sometimes get screenshots from them.
Yes.
And I say, oh, no, like, because then he doesn't have a reason to see you and to meet you. I mean, you might just everything. And the problem is you don't hear the intonation of the voice. You don't know if somebody is like a figurative communication style or, like communication style. You know what I mean? Like, and so there's so many misunderstandings and so many breakups that happen over text.
They do. Things can escalate in a negative direction very quickly, especially early on. If you don't understand someone's humor or what they mean by a text, really what is happening, women are projecting their own issues from the past, their experiences with previous boyfriends onto this dialogue via text. Sometimes they're reading into things like, if he doesn't respond right away, they're assuming, they're making up stories in their head about him not being interested, or he doesn't love me, or whatever, which is like not even the case 90% of the time. There's always something else going on. But I do think the bottom line is that generally, if a man wants to be in communication with you, he will contact you. You don't have to send him the long paragraph and follow up with text after text if you're not getting an answer. Sometimes no answer is your answer, unfortunately. And that's very hard for a lot of women to accept. And that's when things get out of hand and they start with, the emotional responses and the paragraphs.
I always bring that example of when you go to a restaurant, you just get a little snack, you get a little appetizer, you get a little ahi tuna, right? But you're not like stuffing your face,
Right.
Then you're full. Then you're like, it's like, I don't want any dessert. I'm totally full. I don't want any more. And
right.
What the man's experience is.
Exactly. And something like very important, I think women need to realize, men, especially masculine energy type of men, are attracted to vulnerability in women, not like a damsel in distress, but, someone who can be in that space of having emotions and being in a relationship, because that's not the male domain. Like, they didn't grow up like being comfortable learning to talk about this stuff. So, if a woman does that via text, she's not really like showing the guy her femininity, her vulnerability. So the very same conversation that happens in text can go downhill so quickly, and it can lead into a fight. But if you had it in person, like you're saying, like, okay, give him a little appetizer via text, and then you go in person for the entree, the main course, the conversation, he will get to see her body language. He will get to see how she looks visually. If he's attracted to her, he will be much more receptive to listening and considering what she has to say if it's like a non-confrontational way that is discussed in person, or even on the phone is better than text. So I think women need to realize that they can get what they want more from a man by having those conversations not via text, by actually having them in person.
Oh, I love that so much. And the reason why we're talking about this too is like, some women live in like smaller towns. So they then go online dating. Mm-hmm. And then, it's just like unfortunately, a little bit of a natural progression because the relationship started sort of in a writing style and sort of chatting style, right? And then it's like just a little harder to break that, right? So let's talk a little bit about, dating in small towns versus big cities. Like how can a woman, and I have women come to me all the time, they're like, Antia, you don't understand. There's only 2,000 people living here. You know what I mean? I mean, everybody knows everybody. Mm-hmm. What do those women do?
So it can be challenging. And I think that there are pros and cons to dating in a big city as well as a small town. So if we're talking about the small town kind of girls, they probably feel disadvantaged because they don't have the options of the girls that are in the city by far. Like you can just go in the city and there's so many single men. Here, there's not. But that's actually a good thing because there's less women too. So when the men have less options, they actually treat each option a little bit better. Not everyone, we're speaking generally, but the men know that they have less options. So they put more effort into making a good impression. In the small town, they may be taking you to more dinners, but in the city, what these guys are going on 5 or 10 dates a week, they're not going to all these dinners. They're meeting drinks back to back. So you actually in a small town have the advantage of getting to know guys a bit better. Mm-hmm. Now, if you feel like, oh my gosh, well, I don't even have anyone to date because it's so small and all the available guys have dated my friends or dated me, what do I do? Well, this is where online dating can definitely come into play. And even though I'm a matchmaker, I do encourage women to take a 2 or 3 tiered approach to really finding love if they're serious. So I do think they should put themselves out there and go on online dating sites and dating apps. And today, some apps actually have a really great feature for women in the small towns. And like Tinder, I know, for instance, is one of them. People think that it tends to be an app that's more for casual hookups. But a lot of people actually meet on Tinder. I know stories of relationships and even marriages. So I would say don't rule it out if you're listening. But what you can do on Tinder is you can pay for a membership, like a couple, I don't know if it's $20 a month or $30 or what it is, but it's not very expensive. And you can actually change your location. So if you're in a small town, you can have a zip code somewhere else, maybe a secondary city nearby, and you can check out the guys that are there. Obviously, you'll be honest with them and tell them where you're located if you want to date them, but it's a great way to meet people outside of your area.
That's a really good point. Another thing also what I always see is to really stay open. I've heard so many stories where out of the sudden they got introduced through a friend, and one was living in Chicago and the other one was living in a small town, and then they met, or somebody came for a visit, like a cousin or an uncle or whatever, right?
Exactly. Kind of thinking about becoming your own matchmaker, so to speak, by expanding your network and telling your friends and friends of friends, hey, I'm single. I mean, some women don't want to put it out there like that, but everyone that you know should know that you're actually looking and what type of guy you're looking for, so that if they do meet someone, they have you fresh in their mind and maybe they'll be happy to make an introduction for you and just really expand your network.
So that's interesting. Let's talk about that, because there's, of course, a little bit of a stigma that goes with that. Mm-hmm. Feeling a little bit embarrassed and ashamed, admitting that you are single and asking for help. So what is, and we were, of course, talking about this when Harry got married to, his lovely princess in May, right? We were talking about that, right? Because they were sort of match made, and she was on the forefront of this woman's mind. She was like a PR person or something like that. So she, so my women were asking, well, so how do I put myself on the forefront of some influencer's mind, right? Introduce me to a great person. So what can a woman do to put herself in the best light? What maybe some wordings when she quote unquote sells herself, right? She herself in a way.
Well, there's a couple things, and it's really a mindset shift, first of all, that needs to take place. And women should not be embarrassed about asking other women, right, to help them out. I think that it's a tough dating scene out there, and we all need to empower each other. Right. I mean, back in the day, centuries and years ago, I mean, this is what people did. Communities and many different cultures matched people up. The family was responsible, but that doesn't happen as much today. So I think we need to look out for each other. And the way that I like to look at it is in terms of business. So many women who want to succeed in business go to all kinds of networking events, and they have no shame standing up at a networking event and say, this is the kind of client that I am looking for. But why don't we do that in our love lives? Like you said before, I mean, you can't just hope that things magically fall into place. So women have to think about being more proactive. The same in business. Like if you think about, okay, who's going to kind of do you a favor? Who's going to send business your way? It's probably someone who you have proven to them that you bring value to them too. You're not just looking to take. So what I'm saying is to be very giving to the women in your network and even strangers that you meet. If you know someone, say you went out with a guy, a great guy, but the two of you didn't work out for whatever reason, but he's single and you meet a woman, why don't you introduce him to that woman? You know, you have to be generous with your network as well, and it will come back to you.
Yeah, and really teaching people always ask me, like, how do you, I had one date, Rachel, really funny. And one date, and I thought, my God, total match, everything, right? But we had no chemistry, but I knew he's good looking, successful. He's like for someone. So I'm like, I got to hold on to this guy, right?
Hold on
and
to
I'm
him.
not a matchmaker at all. And like literally the next day I'm on the phone with a girlfriend and I heard like the voice, her. And I'm like, you're kidding me, right? So I just told her about it. She's like, well, I went on this date and didn't quite run across, and I reached out to him and it totally hit it off, right? So
that's great.
You never know.
You never know. You know, another idea for the small town women that I've recommended to some of my coaching clients who want to get out there more, have an event or a party, like a house party. It's such a great way. If you're the hostess, you get to kind of like showcase your cooking skills. You get to show up your home and look beautiful. And the catch is every woman that attends has to bring a single male. So there you go. You'll have a room full of men that don't know the women, and it's great. It ensures an even number of people, and everyone brings someone. So there are ways to doing that would probably not happen in the big city. Most people don't have house parties, at least in New York where I am. It's more of like, okay, you're going out somewhere, but there's something so personalized, and it's a great opportunity to connect with people who have a mutual friend, because you probably already have a lot in common. And it's an intimate setting, like a dinner party. I mean, that's how a lot of people in European countries have met. Like I always hear that about France, like people don't even date, like they go to dinner parties. So I think that everyone should try that no matter where they are.
That's such a good point. And not only like, do they bring a friend, but also just to think about if you had just any kind of gathering, you're on the forefront of this woman's mind. Now she knows, oh, this is a great hostess. I feel really good introducing her to maybe my friend or my cousin or my brother, right?
Right.
You put yourself in like some sort of positive spotlight.
Exactly.
Where a woman feels good about that, right? So let's talk about now the opposite, because what about the women in the big cities who say there's no good men in LA, there's no good men in Washington, D.C., there's no good men in New York, and certainly not in San Diego or San Francisco.
Everyone thinks their city is the hardest. I had participated in the Great Love Debate you may have heard of, and
I spoke on that too a couple of times. So absolutely,
they all have challenges, right? No matter where we are. The ratios of men to women are often like not in favor. You know, there's a lot more single women. That's what makes it very hard. What can I say? For the women in the cities, I think that you have to take each option very seriously. Like, do not be too picky. Do not like just dismiss a guy for a superficial reason. You know, maybe if he's a little shorter, maybe if he doesn't earn quite as much as you want, you have to look at what's most important to you. And if he meets those criteria, give him a chance. You know, don't expect to feel the fireworks on the first date. And if you don't feel them, you'll never talk to the guy again. I do believe that chemistry can grow for women. I've seen it happen. It's personally happened to me in my relationship. So I think women have to, in the big cities, realize that even though there's so many options, it's hard for a guy to settle down and be motivated to choose them among all the other women. So they can't let a good guy slip away for a silly reason.
Yeah, that's such a good point, you know, and to let go of the scarcity thing, because it's funny, the small village people, women thinks, you know, I need to be in a bigger city. But then when you're in a big city, now you have all this competition and you have this like this scarcity thinking, right? That like, yeah, I go to the party and there are handsome, quality men there, but there's also gorgeous, quality women there. So
exactly, there's competition.
There's like this competition. So what would you tell a woman how to get out of this sort of competitive sort of thinking, which is, by the way, such a repellent anyways?
Yeah. Well, you know, it's so interesting. This is actually what happened to me. I lived in the city for 11 years and was working as a matchmaker and had all kinds of relationships and everything, but mostly single. I mean, I hadn't been married. And as soon as I moved out to the suburbs, which are only 25 minutes away, where I'm originally from, I got into a great relationship with my current boyfriend. So what I would tell women is, if it's not cutting it in the city, get out of the city. You know, you might work in the city, and I do a lot of work in the city, but I actually don't need to live there anymore. You know, it's close enough that I can be there when I need to be for work, and I work from home a lot. So if it's conducive to your lifestyle, consider going a little further, even 5, 10, 15 miles outside of the city. You'll still find men that probably work in the city and are still cosmopolitan, and you'll have similar values, but they might have a little different mentality because they have less options now that they're in the city. So now that they're out of the city rather, this can work for you if you, like myself, if you're originally from a suburb, you wouldn't mind moving back to one, you're open to relocation. You know, if you're diehard, you have to be in the city, then only date in the city. But if you can go either way, then keep your options open to dating both men.
That's such a good point. Not to get too caught up in the story, but if you really feel like that is a reason, or you're just doing better in suburbs,
yeah,
do that. Get out, right? We talked about it at the Great Love Debate too.
I think there's something to it. I really do.
Yeah, awesome. Yeah, and so let's wrap it up, because we started with texting, right? So like, you know, but what about the texting? So what are some good like text, like some practical tools that you can give women, or something that they can text that's fun, that's flirty, that's engaging, but it's not too much?
Sure. Well, I think you have to be careful with this in the very beginning, because you want it to be like personalized. But nicknames, men love like playful, lighthearted kind of dialogue. I'm not saying pet names that you have to call them babe or baby or everything. Like, you don't do that after like a first date, but coming up with like cute and playful nicknames that reflect their personality. They really like that. They like fun questions, open-ended, like unique questions. So maybe once in a while you can ask one of those. Just don't be boring. Don't make it like the same, oh, how was your day? Like, how is work today? Like, that's so boring. You have to think about like giving a man incentive to take a moment from his busy day and answer your text message. Humor goes a long way. If you find like a funny meme or a photo or something, or even an article that reminds you of him, send him that and make like a witty comment and start a dialogue. So you want to think outside the box. Always with the text messages to men that you send, I think you need to reread them. And it sounds silly, but make sure there's no grammatical errors. It really takes away, like, you send this like great smooth text message and then there's all these spelling errors. Just really draft your messages and write something that you think is going to make him compelled to respond right away.
That's such a good point. You know, I know spelling errors, for me, that was always like a little bit of a red flag, you know, like it's like such a romantic note. And that's such a good point too. You know, I always tell my women, it's about creating a state change, right? Like a man moves or gets motivated when there's a state change. If it's just the same, or it's like predictable, like, exactly. Oh yeah, Susan asked me how I'm doing, and Julia asked me how I'm doing, and it's just kind of like the same.
It's not
one pot.
You're so right. I mean, with men, it's not about like updating him on all the details of your life. Like, that's for your girlfriends. Like, they don't need to know that. They need to know big picture. They like compliments. They like fun conversation. If you have a sexual relationship already, you can have like a little sexual conversation. I'm not saying to send pictures. I'm not telling anyone to do anything that's going to get them on the internet. But I'm saying have fun, make it a playful relationship. In order for a man to commit to you, you need to be adding value to his life. And one good way to be doing that is to stay in touch with him every day. So he feels like he has like that partner in crime and someone fun. So like when something good happens in his life, he looks forward to texting it to you, and vice versa. Like not, this big dramatic conversation or double texting or why haven't you answered back or playing games and ignoring him. Like men don't think about the texting stuff as much as we do. Like we really analyze it as women, and I encourage women to get away from that and just make it fun.
Yeah, it's absolutely true. Men that just look at it one time and then they're kind of it. So
exactly.
As we're wrapping up our interview, Rachel, what's like one golden nugget or one tip that you can leave the women with?
Okay, so I'm assuming this is for women that are looking to have a committed relationship with the man who's like crazy about them, right? That's what we want to magnetize the man. I would actually say to create this emotional attraction with men, you need to be vulnerable. And I kind of hit on that before, but it was this like femininity and this vulnerability that I think women really need to have to show, to keep a man engaged. So don't be afraid to be yourself. Don't think that you have to be perfect. I think men actually like it. Like if you can get to that emotional place and you could share things and you could be a little scared, because it encourages them to do that. And you could do a little of that via text. If you're shy about doing it in person, start doing it via text. Have those conversations in person too, like we talked about, but don't be afraid to be vulnerable, because you need to find love and to have a man feeling comfortable falling in love with you.
Awesome. I love that so much, Rachel. So for the women who are like, gosh, like Rachel, I fell in love with you. So what gift do you have for them?
Okay, so for any women listening, I'm happy to do a dating and relationship consultation, and it will be free of charge. We can do something on FaceTime or Zoom or Skype, or a phone call is fine as well. And I will really assess how I can help these women. So this should be for women who maybe want to hire me as a coach now or in the near future. And I can give them some insight. I can listen to their situation, give them some practical advice, ideas for the future. If they are single and they're in the New York City area, or they're willing to relocate to the New York City area, I could consider them for my complimentary database. As a matchmaker, the men are the paying clients in my business and they absorb the costs. So ladies, if you're listening, you want to be in the big city or near it, I might be able to match you up with a really amazing commitment-oriented guy. So I'm happy to do a little matchmaking interview and see who I have for you.
Oh, I'm loving that, ladies. So how can you pass her up on that offer? So the link for that will be below. So don't worry, click on the link below and you get all the information right there. Well, thank you so much for all your wisdom today, Rachel. I certainly learned a lot, and I hope you took some notes as well. All right, I'll talk to you next time.
Thanks for having me.
Was that absolutely delicious? We just love how every single expert has those juicy pieces of wisdom for you to enjoy. Look, if you want to own the entire Magnetize the Man series, we invite you to get our Magnetize the Man VIP All Access package. Not only will you own the entire video series, but also you will get our Magnetize the Man Masterclass that teaches you the 3-step formula, step by step, on how to attract the right man for you. You also get some other juicy secret trainings and a one-on-one call with me where we personalize your individual journey to attract that right man for you as soon as possible. So look, to get that, click the link below that says get access now, and you get it all. Own the entire series, including all the juicy bonuses, well worth over $1,400 for nearly the fraction of the cost. All right, we will see you in the next interview.
See you soon.
Bye.
Bye.
Mwah.
Mwah.